Hi, I'm Art Sukazian, the president of NCUCA. If you missed this year's conference, or if you attended, we have some great takeaway points that I'd like you to focus on. These are some of the sessions that we went over today, and we're fortunate to have some really great speakers, and I'd like to share this with you now.
Today I'll be speaking for an hour, giving an update on the macroeconomic outlook for the US economy. And in the current scenario, so it's basically the presentation is in two parts. So part one is how we are doing now as an economy. So, answer is depends on what you're looking at. So if you're looking at GDP and stock prices, we are actually doing pretty good. But if you look at other stuff like the labor market, consumer confidence, not so bad. We have barely added any jobs, any net jobs in 2025. And whatever little jobs we have added have all been in healthcare. So like the growth of jobs, I guess the base of job growth is like extremely narrow. And that's concerning. So that's number one. But then the more interesting question is, where are we going? So how are the next couple of years going to look like? And that's our outlook. So here also, interestingly, our baseline outlook, which is our most likely outlook, is we are going to be doing okay. Not too bad. Not a recession. Everything is going to be okay. But given all the uncertainty that we have right now, the confidence bands around that outlook are pretty wide. So things can go either ways. And even with like a slight push and pull here and there, we can like fall off the edge and the economy can go into a recession. And two of the biggest risks right now is what will be the impact of AI on the macroeconomy? It's in everyone's mind. Is AI going to be good, raising productivity and, all good things, or is it going to take away jobs, causing unemployment rate to rise and recession and all the bad things? The right answer is we don't know. That's why we run scenarios. We run hypothetical what-if scenarios and see what it means for the rest of the economy. So the big takeaway from my talk would be, when you look at the US economy today, where are we going? We are going to be okay, not too bad. That said, a bunch of things could go wrong that could likely tip us over the edge into a recession. And so there are like too many unknowns. So one is AI. What will be the impact of AI on the labor market? Will it take away all our jobs? We don't know yet. And then the energy crisis, is it going to escalate further? We are hoping for a quick resolution. Maybe not. So as risk managers and as people working in the financial industry, we need to consider all these other alternative downside scenarios and need to plan accordingly. So plan for the worst, but hope for the best.
The reason I'm here at NCUCA today is to talk a little bit about what federal regulators are thinking about right now as far as the credit union portfolio, how portfolios are doing, how lending is doing, how collections is doing, and then how that's kind of translating to the regulators. So right now we're seeing a lot of stress in the industry. We're seeing that auto loans overall have been down as far as volume, and that's looking like it's going to continue for a bit. We're also seeing credit card debt and delinquencies at a 10-year high. Charge-offs are not as big of a problem, but we're kind of at an elevated rate for credit cards, and delinquencies across the board for credit unions tend to be high. So the NCUA and examiners there are really looking at modifications and workouts and trying to look at how credit unions are making sure that their members are ultimately being able to pay off the loan in the long term and not just kind of kicking that down the road. And there's other items like the CFPB, which has really been diminished over the past year and a half under the Trump administration, which means that there is a gap and a void in enforcement and regulation at the federal level, but that gap and that void is being filled in a big way by state attorneys generals attorneys general and state financial regulators. So we are seeing a lot of enforcement actions on consumer protection laws by state attorneys general, and we're seeing things in like New York, where they just passed a regulation on debt collection that is the strictest in the nation. So it's something to be, I think, concerned about. Yeah, I think one big takeaway from my presentation would be that while the federal level is maybe not as active in enforcement and supervision right now, the laws that they would be enforcing and supervising still remain in place. So credit unions need to continue to comply with the law and comply with regulations that are in place, and also be considering what might happen in a few years if the federal regulators and supervisory agencies become more active. So you don't want to be put in a position where you are in violation just because you're not hearing a lot about it from the NCUA or the CFPB.
Hi, my name is Greg. The reason why I'm here at the NCUCA conference is because I was asked to speak about payments, particularly in the context of credit unions, helping them get repaid, which is an important piece for them. So I wanted to focus today on 4 things, really. One was the importance of payment data and what it can do to help credit unions, and then what I call the 3 Ps, which are prediction, personalization, and proaction, and how AI can be used to facilitate all 3 of those to help these collectors be more successful. I think a major takeaway from what I talked about at the conference today would be on the issue of prediction. That in reality, we can use AI to predict the 4 things: who is going to pay early, on time, late, or not at all. That we actually have the capability of providing 85% or greater accuracy on that. That allows the credit unions to then act in a way consistent with that information. They could personalize the payment reminders and take proactive steps to get their money back in a timely fashion.
Hi, I'm Jay Mossman. I'm here at the NCUCA conference, and I just got off stage talking about AI and intelligence around collections. And really what I went to share with everybody is the impact that AI is having on our industry, specifically collections in the areas that we focus on the most. Shared with them a whole host of impact numbers, facts, some that are quite astonishing. Shared with them, how fast companies like Anthropic is growing, and they're the fastest growing software company ever in the history of the world, and how that's impacting us. And I went on to share how that's going to impact us in collections and things that we should be focused on. And I shared with the group 3 areas that we thought was important. One was engaging with the members, and I showed some real-world examples of how our engagement assistant is actually communicating with the members via phone, via text, email, voice, all driven through AI, and the savings that's saving the credit union industry. Secondly, I shared with them how we're helping the collectors themselves through the collector assistant, and adding a panel to effectively make recommendations to the collector how best to handle the member when the member's in a difficult situation. I've said that we often don't get a chance to talk to our members except when they're in trouble. And I believe very strongly that people don't wake up in the morning thinking that they want to screw up. I think people are basically good, and they found themselves in very difficult situations, either through medical emergencies, situations, loss of job, and we have an opportunity to help them. And I think AI is going to take some of the mundane tasks off our plate and allow us to really spend the time on the human side with people in helping them through their difficult times, as opposed to just pushing paper back and forth. Let AI do that. And the third area is I shared with them, what we're doing to use what we call agentic AI, agents actually taking over their tasks so that we don't have to spend time doing it ourselves. And I gave some real-world examples, and I used bankruptcy as an example of a prototype that we at ACUVA have put in place and plan to roll out later this year, which we expect will probably reduce 70% of the tasks that a collection group is doing today. Again, freeing people up to deal with the human side. What people got is to take away is the impact that AI is going to have on our lives. And we need to really be thinking about it today, talking about it, sharing ideas amongst one another, and figuring out ways that when it comes our way, how we're going to handle it, and how are we going to retrain our people, how are we going to help them. And I think that's the one thing. As much as I talk about AI and the excitement, and I'm a technologist by nature, it's the human side that probably has me worried the most. And I'm trying to figure out how we as a technology company can help, because we're bringing the solutions that are impacting their lives, sometimes negatively, from a standpoint of loss of job or a change of job. So, what can we do ahead of time to prepare them for that? Because there's an opportunity. I think the opportunities are great out there. I think they're greater now than they have ever been, and I know it's going to be hard for people to see that. Every time there's been a technology revolution and industrial revolution in our country, we've come out with more jobs than less jobs, but they never look the same, and our skills have to be different. So the one takeaway, think of the human side.
The title of the session is the AI Trifecta. And the idea here is to look at AI and the implementation, not only just for members, but also the credit union as well as management, and how that is all kind of pieced together. And not necessarily the abstract, but the real. Right? AI is here, it's not going away. Many credit unions are using it in some areas, but the strategy is really to harmonize it across all three of those business lines, hence the trifecta. So we're very lucky to have a number of credit unions that bet early on the adoption and the usage of AI. And so without saying that they were, guinea pigs, I think that's the word that everybody tries to avoid, they were more pioneers. And so, when ChatGPT had first come out and when a lot of these AI, kind of products were coming through, we all kind of tinkered around with them. But there's a difference between using it like a toy and using it at the enterprise level in order to maintain the relationships that credit unions value so much. And the idea, or what makes this very, very different, is we're coming to the table with the actual workflows, the actual steps and actual results that credit unions have been able to put in play. So away from the theoretical and more into the practical, the how-to, and where does it live and how does it react? What are the experiences that have happened? What are the pitfalls that everybody continues to look at? Because no technology is perfect today. And so what are those overcomable pieces that we're looking at and how are they implemented? So we really wanted to focus on the how-to and the what. And so we're calling out by name. We have permission from a number of really great clients of ours and partners of ours that have been able to kind of voice those reactions and those results. And Bruce Lee, who is that the famous martial artist, he has a quote, and I'm paraphrasing here, so I'm probably going to butcher it, but it is, if you want to learn to swim, you have to jump into the water. Nobody on land has the mind frame to figure out how to swim. And so, like many technologies, like many new things that have happened, some are hesitant to jump into the water and swim, and I'm not advocating to jump in if it's dangerous, but the idea here is test it, use it, play with it, learn from it, because it is an enhancement tool. It's not taking away everybody's jobs. What it's doing is it's adding efficiency to it. And so when I get asked that question, I think of Bruce Lee of jump in the water if you want to learn how to swim.
I'm here at NCUCA to talk about finance ops and the technology that we built to help credit unions solve their collections problems and automate it through AI. A lot of these vendors today are leveraging AI and upselling AI to you. In fact, it should be a cost savings opportunity for you, not an upsell. So we're trying to look at how AI could solve your pain points in a way where the onus is on the vendors to be able to risk all the the risk should be on the vendors, not on the credit union, to be able to collect and support your collection operations. So we're really changing the way credit unions look at collections and how collections has been done and is going to be done in the future going forward with AI. I think the future state of collections is going to be fully autonomous. The role of a collector today is going to be changed, where the collector is now going to be managing a group of AI agents that are going to do the tasks that they've previously done before. So they're going to be able to assign, deploy, create, and manage and monitor AI agents to do the same tasks that they probably didn't want to do before in the first place. And their role is going to be evolving, where one person's able to do 4 or 5 things that they wish they had the time to do before, that now they have the time to do. And just monitoring, surveilling, and supervising agents and deploying them to solve different use cases for them. But what this is going to do is it's going to allow you to operate at a scale that was not previously possible before. You can now filter through and go through millions of accounts, with a small group of 10 people or less to manage your entire collection operation. We are really changing the way collections are done. The cost of collections is not going to be fixed at a fraction of what it was before. You were paying 30, 50% of what you collected with your third-party vendors. There's software fees, there's SaaS fees, there's, every fee is deducted. The only people actually winning in this space as your delinquencies grow are the vendors. We're changing that model. We're fixing your total cost of collections to 1.5%. We take on the risk. We cover the cost of the messaging. We cover the cost of the payments. We cover the cost of the outreach. And we only charge you if we're successful in collecting. And we only charge you 1.5% of what we collect. So it's really changing, the entire operating model of collections, changing the pricing model of collections. And who wins? It's the credit unions, not the vendors anymore, with AI being introduced here.
A lot of what I do with credit unions comes from a resume of 12 years in consumer goods at Procter & Gamble. So you learn there to understand why the consumer does what they do. And that served me and the credit unions I advise really well, because credit unions have grown up with all the right intentions to do right by their members and provide good service and that sort of thing. And less of a sales, go get new customer members, think about market share, think about earnings and that kind of thing. It's really all about, I want to do the right thing for the ones I have, and hopefully we'll get some more. What's happened over the years since really the turn of the century is that the fundamentals of the business have shifted. And actually no longer can a community bank or credit union think along the lines of, we don't care about market share, we don't care about size or scale, we don't care about marketing. Yet when you look at the 4 Ps of a company, this is what we learned in marketing in college, the 4 Ps of any business is product, price, place, and promotion. So if you look at those 4, product is loans and deposits for banks and credit unions, and some services. Price is the rate, the loan rate and the deposit or share rate. Those 2 pieces, 1/2 of the 4 Ps, are essentially out of the credit union and bank's control, because the consumer is looking for the best rate they can on loans and deposits or shares, and they use this thing now to ruthlessly shop for the best rate. And this has made them very efficient at discovering the best deals. And so, although it's not entirely true that the bank or credit union doesn't have control, they do, but it comes down to, we can give them what they want or we don't get the business, right? So what's happening is you got loan yield and cost of funds, and they're being driven together. And that's been a 25, 30-year long-term erosion of the net interest margin. Now, credit unions over the years have thought about, well, we're not for profit, we're really for the people and for service and that sort of thing. The problem with that has become that it takes income to be able to provide the customer the technology that they expect and can get elsewhere. And in order to get that income, you need more size, because the products, loans and deposits or shares, are commoditized. There is no wiggle room. You have to give them what they want on that. So that leaves the other 2 Ps, which is place, branches, the website, the call center, and now social media. And that's still evolving a little bit, but the final frontier in the 4 Ps is all things promotion, product or sales, marketing, advertising, PR. And marketing is an area where you have to spend the money, therefore, to get the customer member. And that's also an area, though, that you can spend a lot of money before you realize it's not working or working. So in essence, the ground is shifted under all our feet. We used to shop for mortgage rates in a newspaper. Now we use an iPad or a cell phone. And while that's all occurring, fintech has come in and neobanks, and in 17 years, they've gone from nothing to doing more mortgage lending than the banks and credit unions combined. So all of this is causing a rethink for the financial players, the credit unions, banks, and even the fintechs. And so my discussion is about that, the role that the collection people are going to be playing going forward in this economy that we're in. I think delinquencies are up. They're going to be busy. The collection folks will be. And that's a point of contact with the consumer where they may be able to make a difference in not only the members' lives, but in building the business of their credit union by the way they do that. So that's kind of the gist of what I'm going to be sharing with them. It also has implications around merger and, of course, marketing and generating the income to invest in technology and marketing. So it'll be fun. The information that I shared here and will be sharing with the group is information largely, I'm told, they don't see anywhere else. They being the boards and C-suites of credit unions. I'm constantly told, you've really connected the dots for us. We have things we need to think about. How can you help us around getting scale, getting better at marketing, putting the incremental income wisely into the way we do technology in the tech stack. So this is information that, frankly, is just not broadly there and not being discussed the way it should be.
Neuro-linguistic programming is the language of the human mind. It's how we react to certain words and how words can, cause us to do certain things and motivate us or demotivate us, one or the other. We talked about the 5 most powerful words in the English language: no, why, because, help, and really. Those are 5 very powerful words if you understand how to use them in a collection call. And that's what we talked about here, and how our mind reacts to those words while, maybe a younger generation, they don't react the same way. We can't expect the same reaction. But knowing how to use those words, again, makes us better collectors, better skip tracers. And so that's kind of what it was. And then we went over the 8 steps of the collection call. Identify the consumer, identify yourself, state the purpose of the call, ask for payment, and then discover the problem, solve the problem, update your files, and close the call. Those are basically what we talked about, and it's very important for a collector to know these things. It's just tools in the toolbox. The more we can know about the consumer, the more confidence we exude, the more successful we're going to be helping credit unions or anything in life. Knowing those 5 words are very important. Treat anyone you're talking to, any consumer, any member, the way you would like to be treated under similar circumstances. I made a comment in there that, good things happen to bad people. Well, sometimes bad things happen to good people. Just because a person can't pay their bill, just because they've fallen behind, does not mean they're bad people. Understand you're dealing with a person that has personal problems and empathize with them. Don't sympathize, empathize, understand the problem, and do your best to help them. I mentioned in there again that the definition of a leader is someone who takes places that they won't go by themselves or can't go by themselves. Be a leader. Lead that person to a point where they feel comfortable doing the honorable thing and paying their debt.